was a painful yard and a half. Keep him out of this ball game. Blitz coming. Cowboys pick it up.
I couldn't find myself, but I had to fix the stop video thing. All right.
Oh, hey. That was on mute, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm laughing.
Michael, I'm going to go nail some more. We're building a brand new fence. I'm going to go build a fence. No, the fence is right outside the window. You're not going to go build a fence. Okay, well, I'm going to go mow the lawn. No, the lawn is right outside this window. You're not going to go mow the lawn right now. Well, what am I going to go do? I don't know what you're going to go do, but you're not going to go build the fence and you're not going to go mow the lawn. So enjoy your night. Oh my gosh. And then he was like, I'll be really glad when you're back in that council chambers. Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
Yeah.
Oy, oy, oy. Oh, I know it. Brian, you're not outside tonight?
I was going to, but I've been doing my homework today, so I've been inside pretty much all day.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Holy cow, this onboarding package tonight was 24 pages long. Whew.
11:30.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Hi, Brian Belknap.
Good evening.
Oh, he's cutting wood in the garage. I can hear him. I was just saying, Brian, my husband was like, I'm going to go nail some pieces of wood into the new fence we're building. I'm like, no, you're not. That's right outside that window. Like, okay, I'm going to go mow the lawn. I'm like, no, that's right outside that window. So he's now in the garage cutting wood. Chainsaw saw's about to start. Ay.
You know.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
You know he can't sit still.
No.
Something.
No, to know my husband is to know sitting still. He'll have plenty of time to sit still later when he dies. Not yet. Not now. Are my mittens ready yet, Pam?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I gotta get fleece. I gotta get fleece to put inside them.
Oh, yeah.
So I still got to do that. I don't even know. Is Joann's open yet?
No idea.
Oh, Hobby Lobby. I could get it there, but I don't want to stand in line.
Yeah, you can go get fleece at Hobby Lobby, but I can't get my tooth fixed. My cracked tooth fixed.
You can't
No, they don't start. My dentist's office is not opening until June 1st because they need to get ready. I don't know what they've been doing during this whole shutdown. I mean, they're the people that I would think are the most prepared with PPE, right? They always wear glasses and goggles and masks and all that.
Abby was at the dentist today. She got her crown put in.
No, they're not taking, not until June 1st is when they're starting to open their phone lines up. So a couple more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Couple more weeks.
Because I thought they were taking emergencies. Like they weren't doing like cleanings and stuff, but counted for.
I think so. Is he going to give us the, I'm starting to video now?
I can check with him.
Okay. Or is he just going to go live at 6? Is it 6?
I'll say, are we live?
Right. Yeah. I'll wait another second, see if he answers you. If not, then I'm just going to start.
Yes, we're live.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the May 20th budget workshop for the Auburn School Committee. In accordance with COVID-19 health acts, we are Zooming live this evening. You can find a recording of this on the auburnmaine.gov website, Great Falls TV, as well as on Spectrum Channel 1301 and on the city's YouTube channel. So with all of that, we are focusing on budget this evening. All right, Superintendent Grondin, I will let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you. So I just a small presentation together just to kind of summarize. I know you received your agenda packets with the latest information, but it's a lot of spreadsheet. And so just to summarize where we are. Hold on. Move this up. So I'm going to go just review where the proposed budget is. It's still superintendent's budget until June 3rd, when hopefully you will approve the budget. And then we'll just review the update on cost centers. And it has been updated again today. So Adam will make sure you get, there was a slight adjustment today due to bringing in the aspiration specialist position. So he'll share that with you, but it doesn't change the bottom line. And then after we kind of finalize where you want the budget to be as it goes to public hearing tonight at 7, then I'll talk about future planning. So just to summarize that, since the proposed budget way back in February, by the way, it's been since February, we reduced the budget by 12 new positions, which was approximately $490,000. We reduced 8 current positions at $397,000. And we reduced out of various lines, whether it was equipment, PD, textbook, those type of lines. Remember, we took around approximately $70,000 and bought a lot of equipment and materials, including the saxophone, with this year's budget dollars. So remember, that was some of that reduction was buying things now in order to reduce the budget. And that was about approximately $1 million, $32,000. So we reduced the budget approximately $1.9 million since the beginning. So adjustments that have been made since April 29th meeting is 1 bus remains in the general fund budget. And I know Adam talked to Brian Carrier and Dave Simpson about the bus, the second bus that we're hoping to put in CIP. and learned we couldn't have our buses in CIP. So that second bus, Adam did some research with the Department of Education, spoke to our attorney, spoke to Jill Eastman from the city around encumbering, so the cost of the bus being paid for with this year's funds, so money that would have gone into fund balance, but the expenditure will be put towards the FY21 budget. And so we will see the reimbursement for 2 buses in the FY22 ED 279. So we encumber that second bus now with the funds to pay for it, and the expenditure goes against next year. And so Adam talked to several people about how best to do that. And so that's what we are moving forward to do. Because we're doing that, looking at some of your direction, which is no one lose their job, the return investment on positions, every position, because I know there's people out there, when you're making these kind of reductions, you are not going to make everyone happy, right? Every position is extremely valuable to us. They make difference with kids every day. And so these decisions are not easy. So the aspirations specialist position has been restored into general fund with a salary reduction. So in order to balance to the zero, taking in consideration that the bus was $87,000, I spoke to Jim Horn, who's in that position. And what we're doing is we're reducing his contracted work days from 215 to 190. And so he will use those 190 days allocation to make sure that he's able to get his responsibility and expectations met. So that's an important position. It does a lot with 6th grade and 5th grade, doing college visits, our manufacturing day. He does a lot, obviously, with the high school on dual enrollment. He also is a major connection to community partners as we work together to create multiple pathways for our students. He had just started with the city and a collaborative Lewiston Auburn group to have some real conversations about a robust internship program involving the Lewiston, both Auburn and Lewiston. So that's what we've done with the bus, is reinstate the aspiration specialist position. We also, the technology items were moved to the CARES grants. Remember, we identified things, because we have to remember that CARES grant, which I will talk about in a little bit, is really targeting things that support the COVID-19 crisis. So when we looked at our budget and we have technology buyouts for our teachers and our 7 through 12, we moved that to the CARES grant to be paid for. We also have the technology coach position remains in CARES grant, and that was there on April 29th. You were hoping to have that coach position moved into the general fund. It will remain in CARES grant. The instructional coach, which had not been identified early on, has been identified as the Auburn Middle School instructional coach position. That person is being transferred to a teaching position who currently is in that position. And the Park Avenue special ed position remains unfunded. And I say unfunded because they're noted in the budget, but they are unfunded. That doesn't mean that if you receive additional federal funds or, you have some more federal dollars and as you look at your expenditures as you start into the new school year, that you couldn't turn around and say, we want to fund those positions with funding. Then we had the retirement incentive, and we needed 5 teachers to commit to retiring under the incentive in order to adequately have the savings. If you only do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you're not getting the savings you'd hope for, and you're not guaranteed a certain level of savings because, as you know, with hiring, you can't discriminate and say, well, I can't hire that person even though they're the most qualified because they're more expensive. we always hire the most qualified and the best match for the position, not based on a budget. So we need at least 5 to guarantee some level of savings that would make the impact we had hoped. So we did not have, we only had 3 teachers out of 5 needed. So that is not being offered. Any questions on updates and what I've covered so far? Pam?
Yeah. So the technology coach position is in the CARES grant. So does that mean now the CARES grant we're getting this year, does that mean that this person only has a job for 1 year? How are we going to fund it for next year?
Okay. The person in that position, I don't know if I'm, that person is due to accept another position in another district. And so we're posting anticipated as a 1-year position. So we will see if anyone internally wants to do it for 1 year, or we will advertise it as a 1-year position based on it being funded by the CARES grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good here. I had a question in regards a couple of locations in the targeted budget. We've got a couple pages 14 and 15 where it talks about software is going up between 14 and 82%. And then again on page 85, we're talking about instructional maintenance and technology that are going up 330%. None of that could have gone under the CARES grant under the technology.
So remember, things got moved around a little bit in coding. So to say it's up that much, it may have been that it wasn't where it should have been last time, and now we've put it in the count. So now it's jumping up. So remember, CARES dollars are limited as well. So we have things that we need to plan for that we don't know yet. But Adam, do you want to speak on the pages he's identifying?
You must be, Brian, are you referring to the budget binder, pages in the budget binder?
Well, the news, the stuff that we just got.
Oh, okay. Yep.
You're talking about what you were provided today. I mean, during the packet, in the packet.
Yeah, the stuff we got on Monday.
So Adam, do you need him to repeat?
Yeah, let me grab a pencil so I can write that down, Brian, and then maybe while Katie moves on, I can try to see what that is.
Okay, the software was on page 14 and 15. It's instructional related software for all the schools. And the increase is...
I can speak to that, Brian. That was definitely a coding. So you'll see in other accounts where it's down because we put software, instructional software. We made sure all the buildings had coded them in the correct spot. Mm-hmm. So I know that was one thing because I remember in our budget meetings, we discussed where where it would be coded. But Adam will verify that. But what was the other one?
The other one was on page 85. Hang on just a second. Let me get to it. The instructional maintenance technology. And I'm not going to, of course, I can't get to it when I want to. The sections under repair and maintenance, instructional related hardware and tech. Across the board, that's all up 300% or much higher, 330 to 350, I guess. And I'm wondering if that was the stuff too that's been coding errors. And I understand that we're looking down the stream here, but with such a large increase, I was wondering if we couldn't have gotten that under the CARES and freed up basically some more money.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about keep that in your mind? So that's good because we'll get to the CARES grant dollars and then I'll tell you what I think we have to be aware is coming down the line. Okay.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. That's good.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I just have a procedural question, I guess. going for it seems like things have kind of gotten moved around and recoded and stuff, and I feel like that's kind of happened through this whole process. At what point is it like good or now, or is it something that's going to continue to happen when we realize, or is this like a cleaning house kind of deal and now we're going to be on the right track?
Good question, Rose. So what you're seeing today, nothing was recoded. Those recodes were done right at the beginning in February. When you got your books,
Okay.
you would have picked that up.
Okay. My point is, what, say next year, next budget season, are we able to see what it actually is from that year to this year without it being like the funky like 330%, because it was where we can actually understand where things are coming from, and we don't need people to say it came from here or it came from there.
Yeah. I mean, I can't guarantee it. What I can tell you, Rose, is what is important to look at is if every line was up a certain percentage, what you have to look at is the overall cost center and where there will be other lines that were down 100%.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I know believe me, you either leave it wrong and then it's not good, or you make adjustments to clean it up. So will it be better next year? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not an accountant, so
no, I know. And when you have
all of these little things are difficult.
Right. And when you have a different business manager come in, just like you're going to have a new superintendent, everybody looks through things with different lenses. So Adam, through his lens and his background, made adjustments. Okay. So I totally understand. But what you got in your packet was just the things everything you talked about, that $1 million.
Yeah.
Adam went through and had to reduce all that $1 million in the right places and everything so that it had been done. He didn't do it earlier because things were moving around too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Rose, I think I can guarantee you that with thousands of lines of coding, there will probably be some adjustments every year. I'd like to say we've captured everything for all time, but if I ever find something that should be coded differently, I will fix it, and I'll try my best to always highlight it. But just as an example, the DOE also changes things.
Yeah.
Like this year, they've said that instructional technology should be moved out of student and staff support into regular instruction. Now, it's a moot point for us because we've taken all that out and put it in CARES, but that's just an example. Things do change, and they're not always in our control. But I do understand how frustrating it is. It's frustrating for me, too, when I'm trying to analyze the reports. But all I can promise you is I'll always do my best to highlight it when it does happen.
All right.
Is there another format that we can do the budget in so that it's not as convoluted as it is? I mean, none of us are accountants, and we're all trying to figure this out and trying to find where we can save money, but it's not made very, very easy. And I'm not saying it should be easy, but is there a different format that we can use that way we're not looking here and then part of one position is in this cost center and it's in that cost center and it's all over the place, instead of just being able to look at one position, let's say, and have that position and have everything in that position?
Well, that's something you can work on for next year.
Yeah.
Is that something something that can be done? Or
I
is
would
that
say there's endless numbers of ways it could be presented. And if there are specific ways that you'd like to see it, I'm happy to try to accommodate that.
okay? All right. I wasn't sure if this is the only way that we can. I mean, it's the first time I've dealt with a $45 million budget. My budget's a little smaller than that.
I hear you. And the more you do it, Pam, the more you'll get, next year you're going to feel more comfortable because you've had the first attempt on it. And, we've been doing it since February 5th. So it's hard to remember, what did I learn the first time? You know what I mean? So yeah. I get it. The more you hear it, the more you'll feel more comfortable.
Any other questions?
Okay, so impact on cost center. And the reason I do it by cost center is when you vote on June 3rd, you're going to vote articles, right? And city council approves on articles. So cost center 1 is Article 1, cost center 2 is Article 2, and so forth, so that you have an understanding that, okay, I'm voting on things, because when I took over the budget, when I became superintendent, we didn't do it by cost centers, and then we get to the end and everybody's like, well, I don't understand what the cost centers are. Well, what did you talk about, which cost centers? So I try to do it by cost center so that you at least understand if I'm voting for cost center 1 at 18 million, that's what cost center 1 is, regular instruction, that's Article 1. So that you have a clear understanding that these are the different articles, this is the money and where it's being allocated. Okay. So when we removed everything that we've been discussing over the last couple months, regular instruction is up $318,883. Special education is up $925,481. And remember, we moved how much tuition, the rate, we were at, I think, 83%, and we've moved it to 85%, or it was 82% to 85. But we had hoped to be at 90. And remember, we don't budget for every student attending every day. So this is going to be students attending on average 85% of the time. And so even with that slight of an increase, the reflection is $925,481. We had a reduction in other instruction. That's at co-curricular lines. And that's a lot of the reductions are due to buying things in this year's budget, as well as all the reductions in the non-position, that $1 million. Okay, so that student staff support is down $592,319. And that's the technology, a lot of the technology that was moved. System administration is up $14,842. School administration is up $25,527. Transportation has a reduction of $165,488, and that's the buses. This year we had three buses budgeted. Next year we have only one budgeted. So that's where that reduction is. Facility maintenance is up $32,320. Debt service is down $60,401, and that was down because of our debt being reduced. The adult ed and crossing guard is up $10,196. So the budget is up $465,175, which is a 1.03% increase over last year. So that's the expenditures and the revenue. The state subsidy was up $369,861. This budget is a zero impact on local increase. The local is staying the same. The fund balance is up $93,566 from last year. The other revenue is up slightly at $1,748. So again, it matches. The revenue is up $465,175. Any questions on that? Now, regarding the CARES grant, we have approximately $800,000. So things that have been identified that were pulled out of the budget and things that we have to consider. We have the tech coach position. We have the summer school dollars. We have the digital intervention that needs to be identified. We have summer work from the Office of Learning and Teaching. That's where she pays teachers to gather together to do curriculum work. And so there'll be obviously dollars spent to plan for the reopening of school. So that money is going to be needed in response to COVID-19. Then there are the technology dollars that were pulled out for CARES, which is about $100,000. Then we have special ed compensatory education, which is providing special ed students who perhaps have a gap due to the COVID-19. So these are dollars that are being set aside that if there's a need to hire tutors to help special ed students fill in the gap, for after school programming, for perhaps some summer programming. So these are dollars to respond to gaps that may have been created because of COVID-19. So $200,000 is right now a placeholder. Then we upgraded our Power School enrollment in order to be able to do it more online. And then the hotspots, which did arrive on Monday, and Peter was getting them already yesterday, and I believe they were delivered today. And what's going to happen is they're going to schools, and then the principals and staff are calling parents to come pick them up. And they need to keep track of those hotspots, where they're going, which family. And as I remind you, we bought the hotspots with a subscription for 1 year. So they will be an asset for us for the year. So as families may not need them and return them, we will be obviously getting them out to families who may need them later. So those have gone out, and we're waiting for Department of Education hotspots that we've also requested in order to support needs that may arise. Peter on Monday, when the hotspots came in, drove around to all the neighborhoods to identify where there's going to be strong signals and where there might be weaker signals. So somebody who gets this hotspot might need an additional hotspot from the DOE to get a stronger signal. And so we're going to wait and see what happens with that, depending on neighborhoods. Then there are two categories that we still need work on, which is transportation. If we're going to be doing an option where students come at different times, or we have an after school program, or we have other things to respond to what might be the schedule next year, we may anticipate additional transportation costs. So we don't know yet. We're still working on that. My update for COVID-19, which I can do now, is Michelle and Shelley have been asked to facilitate a safety health committee, and they're having their first pre-planning meeting tomorrow to discuss what a committee may look like, what is the charges, about plans for reopening of school. They're going to need resources to support the plan that's created. You'll be well aware of the plan. I'm sure one or two of you will be asked to be on this committee as we look at different models. There are other states that are ahead of us on models. And so, they're examining what's out there. We're talking to our colleagues from across the state. We're also waiting for the Department of Education for Maine to release their guidelines for us. But things like thermometers, face masks for everyone, plexiglass for barriers, things for the bus drivers. How are we transporting it all when we can't have, you can only have one student per seat on a bus? Well, that's going to be a lot of runs getting kids into their programming. So we need dollars set for that committee to say, okay, these are our needs, and have the CARES grant fund that. So Sue Doris, the grant opened today. She knows already where dollars have been allocated, and she's working on that. They made it very streamlined and easy and concise for us. Not easy, maybe that's a stretch, but at least manageable. She feels like it's very manageable in putting these projects together. And so we're still working with her on how many dollars to allocate for transportation, safety and health, and other areas that we want to make sure that we've allocated dollars to. So that's a work in progress. And once we have everything situated, we'll keep coming back. Like at our next meeting on June 3rd, we'll let you know what the application is.
So Brian, I was able to find the page 85 items that you asked about.
Yep.
That was not a coding change. That's an actual increase on our support costs, but the grand total of all that is about $6,800. And as Katie said, the CARES dollars are going to be important for items we may not even know about yet. And the support cost is something that's an annual cost. So I wouldn't recommend pulling it out and putting it in CARES, because it's another item that we'd have to put back in a year from now.
Is this a reimbursement grant? Like, do they reimburse our expense after the fact, or is it?
Yes, like other federal grants. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has the money been released from Augusta? Like, is it accessible now?
Yes.
It has. Okay.
Well, we have to have our grant approved. So Sue is putting that together now so that we can submit it to get approved, and then we can use it.
Thank you.
So the grant itself hasn't been released because we have to put in our application, but
Right.
anything that would be eligible on or after March 13th is an eligible cost. So for instance, the hotspots we've already paid for, and that's going to be able to be reimbursed under the CARES. So in that sense, it is available now.
Oh, thank you.
Good questions. And we also know that projects can be opened, revised. So once you do the application and put it in, it doesn't mean that you have to do exactly what you said you were going to do. If there's a need that you didn't see, you can reallocate funds differently, which was good news. Okay. So that covers the budget information.
Any other questions or comments about budget?
I have a question about the summer school. Are we going to be having kids in the school in the summer? What does that entail there?
Yeah,
That
good
look like?
question. Good. We just got our summer guidelines, and they're very obviously stringent on what you can and cannot do. So our childcare plans on opening based on DHA, Department of Human Services guidelines. And when she reviewed what the DOE released for summer guidelines, those are pretty much in line. The only difference is that they are allowed to use the playground equipment if they wipe the surfaces, if kids wash their hands before they go out on the surface, wash their hands coming into this on the surfaces. But she's limiting it to 10 students per staff member, and it's only at one site. So she's put a lot together and talking to parents about participation on that. So we can get an update from her on the June 3rd meeting as well. Regarding summer school, we've had a lot of discussion that we will probably 98% chance we're not going to do in person. What we really do looking at is research around summer school, leaning on Richard Ellington's work around how to best keep students learning over the summer. And summer school isn't always, the highest return. What the highest return is getting books in the hands of students. And so they're working really hard. The literacy folks are working as a team to think about what are the best resources and how can parents have voice and choice in what they might select and with their student, their child. So we're looking at different things like, can we do an online ordering where students can say, I want to order these 5 books for myself this summer. So that is in a lot of works on how do we get students materials to be accessing. What we aren't going to probably do is remote learning through the summer as a summer school, but do something different. And then high school, they're talking about their summer school a lot about, it's really going to be a case management, probably look of here are the students that need support in the summer. How do they get the materials how do we get teachers informed about what students need? And then how do we monitor that through the summer? How do we check in with students in the summer remotely? So they are talking about that at the high school as well. So there's a lot of discussion going on around summer school and how to best get resources in students' hands in that way. The challenge is special education because they're supposed to have extended year services. They're in their IEPs. So in their IEPs, students have that they receive extended year services in order to maintain their learning. However, with the strict guidelines on how to do that, we're looking at perhaps offering something in August. That's what we're hearing our colleagues are doing around the state, maybe targeting the August as a possibility to bring in one-on-one or 1 and 2 students. So Ryan is working with his Western Maine colleagues about what they're offering. Transportation is going to be a challenge, whether parents will even take advantage of it, whether staff feel safe and comfortable doing it. So this is part of that safety health committee that's going to be tackling some of these issues as we look at summer and the opening of school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yep, Brian.
Well, I actually have a lot of questions, about 20 of them, and I'm wondering if I wouldn't be better off just addressing them to Adam. They're line items from the cost center budget, and just certain things that are back in there that I've seen, and a couple of questions I had. We've answered about 5 or 6 of them that I've had, but I don't want to, take up the whole session tonight in regards to doing this.
Are they questions that are they questions, I guess, that could be because everything, we want to make sure we're doing things publicly, but are they questions that you are asking because you want to see a reduction even more to the budget? Or are they just
I'll give you a quick sort of explanation, at least. Like I have 3 questions that basically have to do with stipends. I see the stipends.
Wait, Brian, you're breaking up. Yeah.
I know my computer's acting up. It keeps going big screen, small screen. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now. So start your question over again.
Well, it's basically one of the questions has to do with the stipends, and that I see the stipends are in there, and they're in with raises. And I was just wondering if that's correct. If they're all, there's page 59 through 60, page 14 or not 14, 15, but 30 through 43. Are all those back in there? Are those all planned to stay?
Stipends are in the budget, never came out.
Okay. Another,
Brian, if you're seeing increases, they did go up 10% in the last contract. That was not reflected in last year's budget because the contract wasn't settled. So you would see those increases reflected in this year's budget for the first time.
Okay. Page 91, there's a contingency salary of $45,000. What is wrong with this thing?
Actually, that came through fine.
Yeah,
we heard that.
Well, my computer's doing this to me. I don't know what it's doing to you guys. So.
Nothing. You look fine.
Brian, that's where we budget for potential school administrator increases, because those are performance based by contract. We don't know how much they will be. So I put that all in one line. So what's in the individual admin salary lines is their current salaries.
Right. And so this is just for the merit based.
Correct.
Okay.
That's not embedded in the contracts?
No, we won't know until the end of June what their raise is for next year, because it's based on their annual review.
So it's merit based. So you're budgeting base salary plus merit.
Yeah, we're budgeting, X number at potentially this amount, and putting it in that one line to cover everything.
Which is in their contract.
Right. Yeah. Those are contractual. It's a contractual piece.
And I guess the other ones basically are we had a couple of jobs. One was getting almost a 9% raise. The other one's getting a 25% raise. It seemed a little odd to me, but that was a question I had. And the other ones basically are cost. Insurance for the vehicles are up 23%. I thought that was a little bit odd. Gas prices from page 99, we're figuring an 11.3 increase, but where the gas just went down, would we have an increase?
So that's what you're seeing there is an increase in the use of the amount of gas because we're adding gas buses to our fleet. But it is factored at the $1.37.
Okay.
As far as seeing 9% or 25%, no, certainly no one is getting raises of that size. I could look at the lines for you, but that must be, staff turnover or something. But I'm happy to look at the individual ones for you.
Yeah, I can give you those. It's up and around page 90, and the other one's up in the cost centers. And then just like the cost of, that we're increasing the cost of electricity, and I know that the water costs went up because they went up for everybody. But sewer and stuff, I was just wondering about those costs.
So I can tell you electricity, we did not budget an increase. What I did was budget the actual cost from a year ago.
Okay.
So you may see a change in the budget, but what it is budgeting what we spent a year ago.
But wouldn't that change with the reduction in cost for the electricity?
It hopefully will, but we also have to be prepared to absorb a delivery increase. So we know we're going to have a supply decrease, but the delivery increase on the CMP side, we never know. So budgeting it flat is sort of a hedge against that.
Okay. All right.
I had originally budgeted, I think, a 5% increase, and then we brought it down to 0.
All right.
Did you get your...
Brian, I think you asked about water and sewer. We were told to budget 15% increase on the rates.
Yeah, and city likewise had to do that, and we're dealing with that from the council side. The cost center we talked about earlier, that takes care of a lot of the questions.
Okay. Anyone else?
Katie, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Pam.
Who is Richard Ellington? I've never heard of him, and I was just wondering more information on him.
He's I won't think of the book. Maybe Michelle will. She can Google it while we do. Richard Ellington, when we were studying with Marcia Booty in coaching,
yes, her name is really Booty, Boody. Yeah. Marcia and I Booty. She's a genius.
And Karen, maybe you know Richard Ellington too. But,
very well.
Right. So he's a researcher, an expert in literacy and learning, and he put out a book that and was cited around doing research on summer school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wrote some marvelous stuff. Response to intervention. He wrote some. He's a very famous researcher in the educational world, and like the do's and the don'ts. Here's where you should put some money in, and here's where don't bother with this area. So to cite Richard Ellington's work is, it's grounded in research and facts. So it's good stuff. It's definitely good stuff. So overall, I'm hoping I don't want to jump into if anyone has any more questions. So overall, right now, I think we are probably at a point budget-wise where I'm not sure that any more can really be done or be touched. I'm really feeling that this is, we've reached a point where City Council has asked us to come in, zero impact to the local, which we're there, and not knowing what school is going to look like, next year. I think protecting some money in the CARES grant is really crucial as well. So if I were to just, and this is a non-binding type of a question I want to ask you, but if tonight were the budget, were the vote, with a thumb up, sideways, or down, which way would you go right now? What direction do we want to give Katie? Keep it right where it is and present to City Council, I'm not sure, or go back and cut some more. So I'm going to ask you just for up, sideways, or down. Okay, city members, Brian, back at that. Sideways, up, down. So we're seeing a few that would want. So those who would want more cuts, where and how much? I guess is a question I would ask. Or in what area?
I don't think this budget is going to meet the needs of next year's whatever next year is going to be, and I say that based on revenue, not on the cuts. That I can't imagine the revenues coming in as where they're budgeted, which means we're going to be, curtailing things. I was curious about the budgeted furlough days. in a preparation for potential more curtailment. So my thing isn't around the cuts necessarily. It's around how confident is anyone that the revenue is going to be where we've got it budgeted. So that was my thumbs down.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just respond a little bit because I know this is hard. You don't have, we've been doing this since February, okay? And you're down to, and we talked about meeting next Wednesday. What's difficult, and Brian, I know you did your homework today. What's very difficult is to get to a meeting and people feeling like they're uncomfortable and I don't have what you need available to get you to be going like this, okay? So if we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday to further discuss budget, I got to have a lot more from you than this, because we got to get to June 3rd on a vote, or we're going to have to go to June 10th for the vote. And then we have city council needs to vote on it that following week in order to vote on it in July. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that, you know, you have to say, yes, I support the budget. And now, because Dave, to your point, then we talk about how we're going to prepare for the future. So if anybody else wants to talk, because I have one slide about that.
So I think, and in different meetings that I've been in, we're hearing different things about curtailment. Dave, I know you work state level as well, so I'm not sure what you're hearing. And in one meeting we hear this coming fiscal year for school budgets, you'll be okay. And then we're hearing, potentially some cuts in there. So we're hearing things all around right now. But I think, and this might speak to a little bit of, if we go with the budget presented right now, where is there wiggle room in the budget? So planning ahead, if the revenue is down from the state, then what do we do at that point? So I think this is, thinking ahead, and seems to be a perfect time to pull this slide up, Katie.
Yeah. So, and Karen and I have talked a little bit about this, is if you reduce the budget now in anticipation for the curtailment, then you have to make that up the following year. Okay. And I know it's hard. There's short term and then there's long term. So the furlough days came up, and you can do furlough days for non-union. And when we looked at the 7 management team positions at 4 furlough days apiece, it's about $13,000, which is not a whole lot of money in the big picture scheme of things. To ask furlough days of all, like your biggest unit is your teachers. To ask them to do any adjustments to their contracts, that's the food. So AEA, which is Auburn Educational Association, represents food service, ed tech, secretaries, and teachers. They have been made aware that this came up at school committee. When we had labor management last week, I told them it came up and that they may be asked to open their contract to negotiate. So I can't do that in labor management. That would be something that the school committee would need to say, we want an executive session to talk about negotiations, to send Faith and Brian with some direction around opening contracts. And there's a certain protocol, and Michelle and Adam would help support the team on how do you ask, what does a letter say asking them to meet? And how much time do you wait for them to respond? I also talked to the administrators unit. They have a union, and told them the same thing. And I talked to the custodial maintenance unit and told them that you may reach out to ask for their contract to be open. So that you would have to do separate. See, I see that as a total separate conversation from this budget, from what you're looking at for your budget, because you wouldn't want to reduce as if you're going to have furlough days and reduce a thing, and then there's not a curtailment, or it's bigger than you thought and you've got to open all the contracts. I mean, there's a lot of pieces and parts. You can start that process now, but you've got to do it in a way that matches how you open contracts. You got to talk to your team about that and so forth. And it would just be not spending the budget as approved. The other thing that we're doing is we're leaving vacant positions. So we have 3 vacant positions that have not been filled, and the administrators have been told they're on hold for now, which is a literacy coach position at Sherwood Heights, a GT position. This position has been open all year, so the impact on our subsidy is already going to occur. So leaving this position open another year leaves the impact of the subsidy flat. There's an ELHS teaching position that hasn't been identified yet, but they have an opening, and Scott Anir is working on what position would be unfilled at this time. Not to say that you hear better news July 1st, August 1st, or you get more federal dollars and you say, you know what, we want to put more positions in using those federal dollars. Or now that we don't have a curtailment coming, we want you to hire for these positions. That will be up to the new superintendent and you all. Fund balance. Looking at your fund balance, and Adam, you can speak to, if we have a curtailment, how can we spend our fund balance? Do you want to speak to that for a moment?
Sure. So I've spoken to the auditors at length about this. So, for example, if we have a curtailment of $500,000 and we have more than that available in unassigned fund balance, that fund balance can sort of come in to plug the hole. There's no action needed on that. That can happen. So that's one route, that's one available avenue that can be used to cover a shortfall, a revenue shortfall, is to use more fund balance, more unassigned fund balance.
So those are the things. And then, of course, the hope is to have more federal funding available. But we can't count on those dollars because they haven't obviously been approved yet by the Senate. But those are things you would look at. So those are kind of the planning we're doing. We have not had any directive nor communication directly that we need to plan for curtailment. Okay, we're being told by certain, when we're on phone calls or we're at a meeting, somebody says something, but there's been no official communication regarding planning for curtailment. What you do, though, is when you pass this budget, right, and you hear a curtailment, you immediately do a spending freeze, right? And then you're going to be working hard about the only things that are purchased are the things that are needed, and then there'll be other things that won't be done. So part of your response is, if you keep lowering this budget thinking there's going to be a curtailment, you don't need to do that. You can hold the budget, and then you'll have to have a plan on what are you going to do to offset the curtailment, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Any questions from what Katie's just said?
What's the balance of the fund balance after this year?
Hold on, Dan. Let me pull that up. So I'm still working on projections. I have done quite a bit. I'm still holding to the that I think will underexpend our current budget between $500,000 and $1 million. So to be conservative, let's say we underexpend by $500,000 this year. I think that would leave us with about $900,000 to $1 million in unassigned fund balance after accounting for the money we're assigning to next year's budget.
Okay, after that much. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be quite a bit lower than we've had the last few years in unassigned.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just not real comfortable using that much money to try to balance the budget, but I think we're using too much. But
and I think Katie just wanted to point out how the mechanics of that would work, that it's sort of something that just happens automatically is the fund balance plugs the revenue hole.
Yeah.
That's not to say that that's what we would do.
Yeah.
And Katie's other point, I think it's really important to think about, you don't have to reduce the budget to capture and identify savings. Once you've brought that budget down, and if you want to hire all those vacancies, you can't do it because then you can't spend the money. And it also puts you that much lower and you're in more of a hole you have to try to climb out of to get whole the next year. So Katie and I have talked about that a lot, sort of planning for a curtailment or covering your revenue loss in a curtailment doesn't have to also include reducing the budget. It can be identifying and capturing savings.
That's a really good point, is if you wanted to put these positions in because you had an opportunity, you couldn't, because you're set on, you can't, once the voters have voted on the bottom line, that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I agree with you, Dan, though, about the fund balance. I don't want to dip into that too much because then I'm afraid it's going to bite us in the behind next year when we do need money. So I agree with you about not using that as our cushion, as using too much of that as our cushion. That makes
it seems like we use it every year. We're using it every year, and now it's more and more. So that's like in your home budget, going to your savings account and just taking your money out and, not planning. So if something really happens, you don't have the money. So
from my position, Dan, I certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
Is that if we face a large shortfall in revenue next year, we don't want to just let it eat up that fund balance. We have to be really proactive and discuss how we make that up.
Well, and that's one of my big worries is the fact that from what we're hearing, and I mean, even in the paper, we're hearing that the money is not going to be there. And I do not want us to be in a position where we didn't consider one or two positions where next year we're going to have to consider 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And then we're going to have to get into the fund balance even to maintain after that. I would rather, I'm going to I'll be a bit broken record. I'm for cutting it down to the bare bones and being able to utilize the fund balance if we have something come up, as opposed to using the fund balance up front.
Okay, so where do you want the school department to go from here, school committee? They've presented, different pieces that we've asked them to present. They have cut in places we've asked them to really look through. What direction do you want to give right now? Especially for those who are still uncomfortable with what's happening.
I'd like to hear from the folks who are comfortable, the like just to balance. I mean, I can be potentially swayed. I don't live in fear, but again, to Brian's point, you don't have to search for information on budget shortfalls. It's projected everywhere. That's my concern moving forward. So the folks who are comfortable with it, I'd like to hear the rationale behind that too.
I think for me, I'm comfortable simply because the lens I'm looking through of zero impact on taxes right now, the way we're looking at it right now. I'm also, I've lived through budgets where every year my district freezes every year. We freeze every year. And we get through. I just don't, I'm in fear of if we reduce. Now what we initially said, we'd like to protect jobs. We're not going to be able to do that. If we're asking the school committee to go back and further reduce this budget, there are people's jobs who will not be coming. They'll be lost. They'll be gone. So I'm not in favor of doing that. I'm in favor of keeping things right where they are. And if curtailments come, then it's one of those situations that we look at the planning for the possibilities. That's why I'm comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'll speak to, sorry, am I okay, Karen?
No, go ahead, Faith. Yep.
Sorry, and I lost internet on my house. So whoever's the meeting host, if they can let me in on my other device, because I'm just on my phone. But
I saw it too, and then when I saw you come up, I thought you were all set.
okay, thank you. No, I don't know. We just lost internet, but my internet's back on. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So to speak with me being comfortable, I'm not entirely comfortable with this budget because of all the cuts we've had to make. And we've heard from administration, we've heard from teachers that the things that they put into the budget we needed. However, I am absolutely not comfortable with more cuts. So that's why I gave a thumbs up. I'm still uncomfortable with the cuts we had to make, but this is my third term, and I know that, City Council has asked us to come in with zero impact, and that there's no fighting that. We have to come in where they are, or it's not going to pass. They're not going to vote for it. So I just want to say, I gave a thumbs up because I know Katie, the administrators, everybody has made the cuts they can, or have to bring it to a zero impact, but I am not comfortable cutting anything else because, like Karen said, we will not be able to get people's jobs are going to be at stake, and we'll never be able to come back up next year we'll never be able to add anything in if we cut anything else.
And I think also, I think just from having lived, some of these budgets, there are choices that people can make in the school department. And when it comes to just because something is budgeted, if we're coming in with a curtailment, then we're just not going to fund that. So if we have funded for, and I hate to say field trips or things like that, they're in the budget now, but if curtailments come in, then we look for areas like that to start thinking about. And I'm not advocating for that. Hear me there. I'm not advocating for it, but it's things we funded, but if curtailment comes, and we just don't end up fully funding. So that's why I'm sort of like, let's do it. So
Anna's joined us.
Hi, Anna. Hi, how are you, Anna? We're still in budget workshop conversation, but we will be regular school committee meeting in just a few minutes. So I guess I'm going to ask the question again. We've got another budget meeting set for May 27th, a week from now. And so from now until a week from now, what would you like the school department to go back and do? Right? And no one wants to say, go find more cuts, because now we're going into jobs.
I would be more than happy to give Adam my stuff to let him go back and look at it. I mean, as I said, I came up with 25 questions right off the reel, and we did answer some of them, but rather than reiterate them, I can just give them to him and he can answer them. I mean, it'll be available to everybody so that everybody will have it at the end.
Okay. So it sounds like we got a lot of information tonight, thinking about, hearing different people's perspectives. So it may be that we would like to come back to May 27th next week to just sort of hear a little bit more information, or to...
Well, I think it would have been nice to get that information that we got yesterday, maybe a little earlier, because I think it was really hard to try to look through 118 pages and try to figure out how, if we thought there's any changes that could be made. And I know some people work today, so it was really, that was kind of difficult to kind of go through that. So to say,
the only thing I'll say, Pam, is you've had the budget since February 5th.
Yes, okay. But there's been a lot of changes since then, Katie. There's been a lot of changes. So all the changes have been transparent. It's all on that. I'm not saying they're not.
Well, what I'm saying though is, if we're going to continue to, I'm just saying this budget is about as bare as it's ever been. You have absolutely no wiggle room. So yes, we could go line by line and take 500 here, another 200 here, but you don't have any wiggle room. That's all I'm saying to you is and that's awesome. If you guys get all that work done to where you want to go line by line, we'll do that next week. Just let us know what the lines are by next week. And I'm just saying, we did this. We found over $1 million of non-positions to try to save positions as directed. Mm-hmm. So if this is to go below zero to continue to bring it down, then give me the number and we'll do that. If you want to go line by line and then tell me which line by line, that's fine. I'm only getting a little defensive because I feel like every meeting we have told you, we've shown you the spreadsheet, we've shown you the where everything is coming from, line by line. So I that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I just need to clarify that. I just need to clarify, Pam, every change that's been made since the end of February has been on that spreadsheet we've been sharing with you every week.
No, I know it has been. It's just that, like I said earlier, this budget is not the easiest budget to read. So when there are changes, and I'm trying to do my due diligence and just look at the budget and try to process it and see where the changes are. I appreciate all the work you've done, and that's not to say that's not what I'm saying. It's just that. Because I am the kind of person that likes to look at things and do my due diligence, and that's what we're tasked to do. We were tasked to look at this budget. We were tasked to, try to find cuts, and that's what I'm trying to do. And in order to do that, I guess what I was saying is I would have liked to have more time with this new budget that we were given. Not new budget, but
not a new budget.
Updated version.
Well, the updated version, because I'm the same way. If I got 118 pages. You gave me 118 pages. I'm going to go through 118 pages.
Right, but the 118 pages are the exact pages you had, except for the changes that were made on the spreadsheet, Brian. That's all I'm saying is anything you're seeing is due to having to do the $1 million over the close to $2 million reductions. Nothing's been added.
I'm not saying anything was added. I'm going back to look at it, but I'm still going back to look at the line items, and I compare to the book, and I look at this, and getting it on Monday for the 118 pages that I do go through.
Okay. So I guess
you'll keep going through it and just have all your questions to us by next one. I
could probably have them to you by tomorrow. It's not a big deal. I had a bunch of them written as I was going along. So that's why I said I didn't want to monopolize tonight. Mm-hmm. But I have questions, and Adam answered some of them. You answered some of them. So we've eliminated some of those questions, but I still have other questions that I think that you can answer for me. Might make me feel more comfortable with this.
Okay, so let's hang on to next week's meeting then. It sounds like people want, absolutely, which will give you, more time to look through. So it sounds like we want to hang on to the May 27th meeting then, next Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And I would say, just so that Adam and Katie are absolutely ready to answer any questions that are coming up, just present them. If you could give them ahead of time, that would just give them an idea of maybe the direction, or just to be able to answer questions. I know sometimes like questions that came up tonight, why did this increase this amount, but this percentage, but decrease this percentage? Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
With me, Adam, if I could give them to Adam, say tomorrow, he could have them go out in the packet or whatever we have to, for the next time around. And that would be fine with me.
Just to make aware that Adam is on vacation next week. He'll be at the budget meeting, I think. Yes. But so we need him, sooner than later, because he is on vacation. He's had it planned for quite a while. And
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone is.
Vacation's not going to be in the school building?
No.
No.
I did have one question.
Sure.
What does the council think about using that much fund balance? Are they on board with that, or are they still?
The council's only using 5%. And we just got back for another $740,000 last week. So
I meant on the school side. Yeah. They tend to not vote for it because we're using so much fund balance, or do you know that
experience with this one? I can tell you what they're telling me is that they have a problem with digging into the fund balance that much. They like the idea that we've gotten to zero, but they'd like to see us have gotten to zero without use of the fund balance.
Yeah, me too. That's what I would choose.
The little ding that's off to my side is the councilman calling me and saying, "Hey, ask this question. Hey, don't ask that question." So I do.
Well, then they're not being transparent at your meetings on that directive. I checked in with the city assistant city manager, and he told me there has been no request for the school department to make an adjustment as long as they're at zero. So if there's a new directive or a different directive, then we need to know sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either. I mean, it's zero. Zero is what we have been told. Zero is what I've been told. But no conversation of fund balance whatsoever. None.
Could we possibly find that out before next meeting and maybe let us know between now and then?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make me feel better about voting for it or not voting for it, because I don't feel comfortable with it. But I mean, I guess if they're comfortable and that's all we can cut without cutting jobs, and that's a possibility, I guess.
I'll give them the question tonight.
Okay. All right, everyone. So I think at this point, we're going to wrap up budget conversation workshop piece and probably take 2. Can we take a break for 1 minute or 2, or do we just want to jump right into school committee meeting?
I need at least a minute. You gotta tend to something. So
yes. All right. So let's take. It's 7:09 now, so we'll come back at 7:09 according to the clock that's up on my phone. So we'll take 5 minutes, and then we will come back. So say 7:15 for quick, easy 7:15. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So 7:15.
Dave said we're live, Karen.
Awesome. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the May 20th regular meeting of the Auburn School Committee. In accordance to COVID-19 Health Emergency Acts, we are Zooming this meeting. This meeting is being recorded, made available by Great Falls TV, which can be found on the auburnmaine.gov website, as well as Spectrum Channel 1301 and on the city's YouTube channel for public access. So let's begin with introductions in ward order, please.
I am Rose Walker from Ward 1.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Karen Matthew, Ward 3.
Ryan Belknap, Ward 4.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Faith Fontaine at large.
Dave Simpson at large.
Brian Carrier, Mayor's Rep.
All right. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is communications. Anyone have any communications they'd like to share this evening? Seeing none.
I do want to say I'm very glad that Jim Horn's position is back. I got a bunch of letters from students advocating for him and saying how much he supported them and what a huge advocate he was for them. So I was ready to kind of fight for him tonight. But I'm really pleased that he's back in the budget. He sounds like someone that we really need. He's quite the asset at the school. So I really appreciate the fact that we're not losing him. And, you know, it's amazing to see students writing to me. I mean, I had quite a few kids write to me, and I was really impressed with them speaking their truth. And because I know it's not comfortable for an adult, let alone a student, writing to someone from school committee. So I just wanted to say that. So I'm very happy that we are going to continue to have Jim Horn with us.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Anyone else?
I just want to publicly thank all the administrators, teachers, community members that are going above and beyond to make a graduation happen for our seniors. I think it's great that we're utilizing, you know, something in Auburn, the airport, and I'm just glad to see that the event is actually happening. And I think it will be one to remember. So I'm very excited that we're doing something for those kids because they definitely have been robbed of a lot and they deserve to walk across the stage. So I'm very happy and thank you everybody that's involved.
Thank you, Faith. Anyone else this evening? Okay, seeing none, let's move on. Approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda as well as the approval of the minutes for May 6th meeting?
So moved.
All right, I'll take Dan Poisson as first,
Second.
Brian Belknap as second. All in favor? Raise hands. Can you raise hands on this one? All right, motion passes 8-0. Thank you. All right, at this time, Katie, I wanted to ask you this one just as a in the public participation. Are we holding it twice this evening? And I should have asked you this prior to the meeting. It just dawned on me 2 seconds ago.
Well, I would say that if they're not speaking, if they're going to speak, they can't.
Something else other than to the budget, correct? Okay. All right.
To the items, right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So public participation is open this evening. There should be a phone number streaming at the bottom. And if you would like to call in with a comment, a question, concern regarding the Auburn School Department that is not on the topic of budget, we have a separate time for that. Then the public participation is open.
Excuse me. Oops.
I feel like I role play this in my head. Pick up my phone, dial the number, right? I feel like, okay, if someone was really wanting to call, they would be prepared to call. And so I'm going to close public participation. No one called in at that point. And I'm going to move to student information so that Anna LeBlanc is here with us tonight. We haven't had a student rep for a little while. And so I got a hold of Anna and asked her if she would mind popping in with us tonight just to kind of give us an update on what it's like to be a senior at EL at this time and thoughts around graduation and how you guys have been planning graduation. So Anna, you've got the floor.
Yeah, so this is officially my last week of school. It's kind of crazy. I only have a few more days left, but I've been working a lot with the administration lately, just doing a bunch of Zoom calls to plan out graduation. And for those of you who may not know, the way that our graduation is going to work is we're going to be at the airport, and we will have, each student will be allowed 2 cars to like pack their families in, I guess, but allowed 2 cars, and you have to wear masks at all times when you're in the cars. And you'll be parking along the airport, and we'll be receiving parking passes next Thursday, which I'll get more into that later. But we will be parking just in front of like a big stage, and we'll have a speaker and a screen set up. So when students will still be able to get like their name announced, and they'll still be able to walk across the stage and collect their diploma case, and then they'll go back to their cars, and they'll be able to come up with their parents and be greeted by their parents at the end of it. And there'll be a screen for all cars in the way back to see that as well. And also another positive with this too is that I know that me, the salutatorian, and the valedictorian will still be able to have a speech. And I know that a lot of us were looking forward to that as well. So there's another positive. And so we're doing our best to just try and make it as much as a graduation as it can be. And from what I've heard, just hearing every other school's ideas, I feel like our school has like as close as we possibly can get to a real graduation. And I'm really happy with that. And to get more into our parking passes and things like that, next Thursday, we'll be doing just a drive-through to the school where we'll be picking up, we'll first be dropping off all of our books and athletic gear, band gear, anything that we possibly owe to the school. And then we'll be collecting our cap and gowns, our parking passes, and our yearbooks if we bought one. And so that'll be another, like a way for seniors to just kind of like almost say goodbye to the school while collecting what they need for graduation as well. And then we have news for other underclassmen and things like that. I know that NHS just recently announced which seniors will be getting in, and also by June 1st, all the juniors and all other seniors will know if you're in or not. So there's outside school news, and that's about what I know so far. If there's any questions, I can answer, but.
Anyone have any questions for Anna? Thank you for that update.
Anna, thank you so much for just participating with the school committee. And, I've always loved hearing what's going on from a student, and you've done a great job, and congratulations on college, and best of luck to you. You're going to do really well. You're just a great kid, and you're going to do really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So just a fun fact, I've known Anna since she was, how old, Anna? 3?
Yeah.
3. So it's really, and I'm going to get choked up. Like, it's really emotional for me that, I got to put, just as school committee chair, my name is on her diploma. So I think that's just spectacular. I thank you, Anna. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll let you go. You can leave the meeting, my friend, or you can hang out. It's up to you. It's completely up to you.
It is my dad's birthday tonight, so I'm going to go.
Oh, that's right. All right. That's right. Happy birthday, Steve. All right.
Hi,
Bye, Anna. See you later. Thank you.
Anna.
All right. Moving on. Superintendent's report. The FY21 school budget public hearing. This would normally be when we are asking people in council chambers to come on up and share their thoughts with us on the proposed school budget for the 2021 school year. But unfortunately, that cannot be done. So we're taking comments publicly this evening, again, by the number that is streaming at the bottom. If you are watching live, 207-240-3739. Would also say that if you are more comfortable emailing comments, feel free to do that too. You can reach us all through email. Again, I'm role playing through my mind. Pick up my phone, dial the number. All right, seeing nothing come in. Does anyone want me to give it a little bit longer? Feeling comfortable? No one's called in. All right, moving on. Business, school calendar. All right, vote for the school committee to approve the proposed revisions to the 2021 school calendar as presented. Superintendent Grondin, did you have anything else to add to any changes versus the last time we saw it?
No, there's been no changes. So looking for support tonight for the calendar so we can get it published.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to approve the proposed revisions for the school year 2021 school calendar as presented?
So moved.
Rose. Brian, was that a second?
Karen,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
No, so what's the process? Obviously, we've never been in this situation before. If we have to, obviously, guidelines may change right before. Just so I'm aware, if people ask, what will the process be to change the start date or how that's going to look? Does that make sense? Sorry.
So so Katie, I'll ask you to answer that one.
Yeah, I would say that, as things keep moving, it's going to be, when are we counting student days is really going to be the question.
Right.
So, our target is to start counting students' day on that August 31st date. But as you work through it, and that might need to be adjusted, you're right. It's going to be probably all through July and August, you're going to get updates, right? This is the plan. You're probably going to have 4 options, right? You're going to have to start looking at, option A, option B, option C. And so as we get closer, we're going to have to communicate with our families, just like we did before. Remember, we thought we were only going to be closed for 2 weeks. Who would have known, right? So I think it's going to be, and I think most people are going to see that, the flexibility. Will the reopening of the state continue on its path, or are they going to end up backing up? So I'm with you, Faith. I think it's going to be an ongoing communicate.
So we're just voting on if everything's back to our normal, this is what the calendar will be, and then we'll adjust as things change.
Yeah, that's why I put in big. I put.
I'm looking. It's right on here.
Right up front. Subject to change.
Yeah, subject to change due to COVID-19 pandemic. So it's on here. So approving this also gives the subject to change. So this is the best case scenario, what we have in front of us. But that is completely subject to change. So right now, we have a motion to approve what I would call the best case scenario for 2021 school calendar by Rose, seconded by Brian. So I'm going to ask for a vote. Any more discussion actually first? Sorry. No more discussion? Nope. All right. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion passes. All right. Good to go on school calendar. Policy, second reading. Michelle.
Sure. So we have, we approved procedures at our last 2 meetings ago. Last meeting. And you approved first reading of policies. Those policies that we're on second approval tonight are policy Environmental and Safety Program, EEA, EAA, drug and alcohol testing of school bus drivers, and EEAEF, video cameras on transportation vehicles. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Hang on, I need to change my view again because I'm going to ask for a motion and a vote. So I need to see this one I'll have to do a roll call because I can't see all of you. So right now,
I can do that if you want.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, can I entertain a motion to approve the second reading of the above listed policies as presented? Oh, I didn't catch that. Sorry, I didn't catch it. Was that Pam?
Faith.
Okay, Faith, sorry. Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, Brian. Any further discussion? Ready to vote? We can do hands up now. I can see you. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, those policies pass. Thank you. All right, Finance Committee.
Oh,
You're on.
I'm on. Okay.
Finance Committee presenting the April 2020.
Had our normal Zoom meeting. Where am I? We had the normal bills. We had an update on the projects with the revolving fund for AMS and the project that's down in Franklin. Everything was in line. They were, I think I'm on the right page here, and they're moving ahead with it. it's looking good to be done for the project that's done this year. The other item would be addressed next summer, still Franklin. The diesel tank conversion. They had the company come back out and take a look at it. For repair, the company didn't think that it would be worth our while to try to repair the item. So we put that item back into the CIP for replacement. All bids seem to be online. As Adam said earlier, we're looking to have some savings. So Adam, I'll let you finish up.
Sure. I think, as I alluded to in the budget workshop, I've done quite a lot of projecting out, and even accounting for the $72,000 of equipment and $160,000 of computer purchase and school bus encumbrance. I am still projecting to be between 500,000 and $1 million of unexpended budget, and I'm continuing to refine those numbers as I have time. But I've projected out all of the salaries, all of the health insurance, substitutes, things like that. So all the big hitters. And so I'm still going to go through all the supplies and equipment and take a shot at where we'll end up. But definitely realizing a lot of the savings we expected, and those are being used to purchase the things that we pulled out of next year's budget. So on track, and I'll keep you posted next month with some better numbers.
We were also online with the other CIP projects. They've moved ahead with a lot of those. Walton bleachers are down and done. The doors are done at Walton. A lot of the items that were on there have been completed, and just a couple more that are still online, but moving well ahead with the CIP items also.
Great. Any other questions?
Just one I want to mention, because it's very exciting, is the Park Ave generator replacement is done. And so we're very glad to have that back online, and grateful for the city for the $30,000 of Homeland Security grant that's helping with that. So a lot of projects out to bid right now and moving ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Any questions? All right. Can I entertain a motion to approve the finance report for April as presented?
All right. I did have a question.
Oh, so sorry, Rose.
That additional savings, where does that do? What does that do? Does that roll into fund balance?
Yes, all unexpended funds roll into fund balance.
Okay. So I guess, I don't know, with the topic from the budget workshop, using some of our fund balance to offset some of the costs if curtailment, we have a lot of extra fund balance that will be going in there. So I don't know. I guess it was just more of a point versus anything else. Right? Am I looking at that correctly? Okay. That we're going to have a lot of money left over, and it rolls into fund balance. We were talking about possibly having to use some fund balance to cover some things, which we were told we could, right? So taking and using some of the fund balance isn't as bad as like using it all right now or next year.
Just a point to keep in mind is that, some of that savings is eaten up with all those budget reductions that we're spending the money on now. It would have been considerably more. So
yeah, but even still, it's good that there is still savings. That's my only point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's entertain a motion to approve the finance report for April as presented, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. All those in favor, you show hands. I see you all. And seeing none opposed, motion passes. All right, thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Finance Committee, we just had a conversation with Finance. Policy Committee, we've just updated some policies. Anything else to report from Policy Subcommittee?
Not yet. No. I don't.
Okay. All right. City Council update, Mr. Carrier.
Well, the city council, if you guys have been keeping track of the meetings, we're constantly, as the school department, is being kept abreast of what's going on, and looking down the line, we have made additional cuts to the budget of $740,000, which will be exactly 20% of revenue and 5% of our excise tax. We chose 20% because it's an in-between point. Some cities have gone as far as cutting 50% of their revenue that they would have gotten from revenue. Right now, this will cost us positions, but we feel like that it will also leave us in good enough shape that we'll still be able to respond if we have to next year. And that's basically it.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Curriculum subcommittee, nothing to report there. Community Learning Center, I can't imagine they're open. Are they open, Mr. Simpson?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No, not that I'm aware of either. We have not met with the building committee since our last meeting.
They are open. They're just remotely open.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Wellness subcommittee, have you met? Nothing?
No.
Okay. Audit subcommittee?
No, nothing.
No.
Okay. Transportation appeals?
Nope.
Nothing.
Okay. Share center? Don't think anything's. Go ahead, Rose.
Well, she had sent out in her newsletter, Lisa and the team there, and said that they obviously are going to remain closed through July, or are going to try to open again in July, but just really appreciates everybody's care and understanding. They're also, they canceled the Bates Clean Sweep because of everything. So that's a huge revenue for the Share Center and where they get a lot of their donations from. They also are still continuing. She's spending a lot of time over at Martell, adding more stuff in and just organizing everything. So she's really hoping to have it ready to go in July.
Thank you, Rose. DEI, I think, is put on hold right now. Go ahead, Pam. Yes.
I had a Zoom meeting with Virginia and Laura, and we were talking about the title money to make sure that to see if it was going to be extended into next year or if we had to use it now, even though we've been kind of on hold. And Dr. Doris said that we have it until next September, which is wonderful. And we also discussed even though diversity, equity, and inclusion doesn't quite look the same because we're doing COVID and remote learning, but they are willing to also assist with remote learning, kind of doing like we've done remote learning 1.0 and now 2.0. And they've gotten a lot of information from different schools and how that looks and how to make it more equitable. So that's something that we're discussing now now that we know that the funds are there and we have time to use them, that might be one of the avenues we want to go into as far as to try to make remote learning more equitable for everybody across the board. So it's pretty interesting. I'll keep you updated, but right now that was just basically the conversation and just to make sure the title grant money, to see if we needed to use it right away or if we still had some time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cam. I'm so used to hearing, no, we haven't met, no, we haven't met, no, we haven't met. I'm just assuming nobody's met. So thank you. What about negotiations?
We had an initial conversation as a subcommittee the other day about the food service negotiations. I think our next meeting is scheduled for the 1st of June to kind of go over the language in the contract and kind of put our plan together. And then we're meeting hopefully in person. We pushed it back to the 15th of June so that they can kind of finish up the school year by the 12th and give them time that hopefully we can do it in person. But, planning on obviously doing Zoom if we have to. The meeting on the 1st with just a smaller subcommittee, we're going to do via Zoom. But we're moving along.
Okay, great. Thank you. Superintendent Search Committee. This is a committee that can dissolve. Now, this is we've finally been able to. I met with Dr. Cornelia Brown the other day. She has signed her contract. So that has been taken care of. I know that she and Superintendent Grant are going to be meeting for some transition conversations. And so at this point, this is the last I need to report out on the superintendent search. She has signed. So we are good to go with that one. So I don't know if there's nothing else I really need to report on that other than we are enthusiastically and welcoming her into the Auburn School Committee. We also, I think, as a school committee, understand that transitions can be hard to negotiate, and they can be uncomfortable, and there's a lot of uncertainty around the unknown. I realize we all realize this is the first superintendent, I think, in 20 years that is not someone that has come up and through the Auburn School department. So we recognize that this is a transition time, and it's not anything that we want to not just say it's going to be smooth and wonderful and everything's going to be great. But we really feel we honestly feel the best candidate is taking over the helm. So transitions will start happening. All right. And as far as so that committee could be completely dissolved because we will have to talk about another committee that I'm going to need some input in just a few minutes. So parent advisory, I don't believe.
No.
Yeah, there we go. Finally, I got that one. Okay. And technology?
No, nothing yet. I'm going to catch up with Peter.
Okay. So as far as a new committee, there is, and I think Katie talked about it earlier when she did her COVID-19 report, that there is a committee, sort of a reentry committee, what school could potentially look like, planning for different scenarios. There's sort of a steering committee. There will also be a subcommittee, but as far as on the steering committee, that first committee put together, there is an ask for a school committee member to be part of the thinking and the planning around reentry. So I'm going to open it up to all of you. If anyone is interested in throwing their name in the hat and wanting to participate and be part of the reentry committee, I would ask that you can let me know now, or if it's something you want to think about, send me an email or a text and let me know that this might be something you'd be interested in. I know that just for logistical purposes, I believe, Michelle, they're meeting tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're not ready to make a yes, I can certainly attend that meeting, but it doesn't mean that I need to be the person on the committee. However, if no one else sort of wants to jump onto that committee, I can certainly support the work going on in that committee as well. So just know that that's another, I guess we'll call it the reentry. What do we want to call that committee, Michelle? The reentry committee?
We've got kind of a long name. We're the Health and Safety Reentry Committee.
Health and Safety Reentry Committee.
Pam, I hope you consider being on this committee with your medical background. I think it would be key.
Well, and I'm trying to advocate for her, but I'm thinking with DEI work that might be going on, that this might sort of sync all together. I'm not trying to say, hey, ma'am. But I think it would be really, Faith,
what would it entail? What would it like?
Anybody, just to give you a sense of who we have targeted on the committee right now, we have on this steering committee, administrators, some a school committee member, administrators from the building level, and a school nurse, as well as we have a parent who happens to be a physician. So just know that we did think about that in the representation on the steering committee. When we move out to the next level, we'll have a broader representation, because that's when we'll start to really talk about, this is strategic planning, kind of like taking in the, as Katie said, the research, the guidelines that are coming out of DOE, that are coming out of DHHS, putting all those things together. Our school nurses on not biweekly, 2 times a week, she's on Zoom meetings with the state school nurse as well, working closely with the CDC. So we'll be working at that level, looking at guidelines. Where do we go? What do we need to be considering? And then moving from there, there will be another broader based, as I was saying, committee that will have teachers and getting down into what does the work need to start to look like. And from there will be work groups. So because, as Katie has said over and over, this is a really complex, we can all try to imagine it, but really it's really trying to conceive something that is off the grid, so to speak. So we just looked at North Dakota. They've reopened. Maryland has put out a document about reopening. So we're really trying to pull in all resources at this point. And that steering committee will be a strategic committee on big picture, not detail. That'll be the next broad-based conversation.
Right. So please, if you are interested in serving on that one, please let me know, and we'll add you to that committee. I think that's all for committee information. May 27th, budget workshop. Sounds like we're going to hang on to that 6:00 meeting next week. And that next regular meeting is June 3rd, however. All right, future agenda items. Does anyone have any items for future agenda items? If you're not thinking of any, you can certainly email myself or Katie to have those added to the future agenda items. No executive session this evening, so I believe at 7:46 p.m. I can ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I'm going to take, there we go, Pam. I was going to say I heard Dan Poisson's voice first. All right. Well, all those in favor? Hands up. All right. Motion is approved. Ladies and gentlemen, meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much.